Welcome to our second episode of Your Voice Matters. Today we have Shog and Mohamed. Supposed to have Penny and Murtaza, but internet connections are bringing us down right now. Hopefully, we can catch them later in the conversation. But before we start, I just want everyone to introduce themselves. I mean, I know you know each other, but introduce yourselves to the audience and um, give a fun fact about yourself and why you decided to join the conversation. Anyone can start. Show can go. Go ahead.
My name is Shog. You said fun fact, correct?
Yeah.
I like to go on hikes or just discover like new mountains and hills, especially since I live in the springs, so it's pretty easy to do that.
Mm-hmm. And why did you decide to join the conversation?
You're a good friend. I gotta help you out.
Okay.
But other than that, I am very outspoken when it comes to matters of, um, you know, everything that's been going on from racism, police brutality, protests, Black women constantly being disrespected by everyone, being killed, all of that stuff. I'm big when it comes to stuff like that, especially living in the Springs.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And Mohammed?
My name's Mohamed. An interesting fact about me is I also like the outdoors. Um, the reason I did this is because I was asked to do it, but that's not the only reason. But I want to expand my level of thinking and get to understand things from a different perspective.
That's great. So just give you guys some current events that's going on. We've seen the Portland abductions by undercover police, unmasked police, unidentified police. Protests are still going on months after George Floyd's killing. This weekend, as we know, Denver and Aurora and Colorado in general will be protesting for Elijah McClain and many others. And we've seen um, social media going normal. We've seen allies for Black women and support for Black women because it's been going unnoticed. Black women have not been supported. Black men have not been there, and that's just general speaking. But I'm willing to I want to dive into that, and I also want to dive into continuing the movement. And we're a couple months away from our general election, and what's the importance of voting, and as we're all parents of immigrants, and why delivering that message and making sure they get out there and vote themselves. So first, I just want to, how are you guys doing? How is how are what's your thoughts? What's your mental health? Currently in a world where I think things are just becoming worse. I thought we'd be getting better in the month of July. Now August is about to start schools a couple weeks away. We don't even know what's going on with school. So, like, how let's just talk about how you're doing.
Doing,
Go, yeah.
man, it's like you really can't. I could control how I let things affect me, but there's like some point where you can't control the things you see. So like, you get on social media and you just see a bunch of negative things. So I know I just kind of choose to limit my time on it
Yeah.
because how it'll make me feel mentally. But I mean, also it's kind of always been that way. Like it's just people have been blind to it, and now that people are starting to wake up to it, I guess it's good that we're seeing like social media as a platform for people to do things like activism.
Hmm. Yeah.
I totally agree with what you just said. I'm just going to backpack off what you said. I think there's just taking the burden of everything. I'm currently just occupying my time as much as possible because I'm the type of person that sits in my feelings, and I'm trying to get in the habit of asking myself to just like, who said that, or did that really happen? Because my mind just starts to go. So I've been occupying my time. I decided to take a week off social media every month. At first, I thought it wasn't okay. I thought I was making myself oblivious to what's going on in the world, but I realized that it's okay to take care of my mental health, and my emotional stability in the long run is very important.
Yeah.
So I definitely think we need to take that also. It's a lot.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, it's completely a lot. I really think people are very conflicted on taking a break, because they feel like the movement's now. You know, like this is it. You know, if you go in a coma right now, like you'll miss out on everything. You'll miss out on the racial injustice and the 2020 revolution, social revolution that we're having right now. And I mean, I would like to argue and challenge that because, like, just like I think we're just beginning. You know, we haven't even got justice for Breonna Taylor or let alone George Floyd or Elijah McClain here home. So, you know, I think we're just beginning. I think this, you know, I think mental health is important and people need to understand, just like you said, Shog, and like you said, Mohammed, like sometimes you just need to take a break off Twitter, especially Twitter. You know, there's so much negativity on Twitter from sexual harassment, stories that are just coming out, and people you know, and you know people maybe you used to know, and you're like, how could this happen, to deaths and videos, people being lynched. um it's chaotic, and you know we're living in a pandemic. It's I think we forgot about that, and you know it's a crazy moment. So what ways would you guys say, like, other than just taking off social media and unplugging your phone, what other methods help just heal yourself mentally, and not let's say distract, but just prioritize yourself?
I see a therapist. Luckily, there's a Black-owned therapist here in Colorado Springs. It's owned by a Black woman in her 60s, and her son is a therapist there as well. Because of everything going on in COVID, we don't have face-to-face meetings and all that stuff. But I talk to her over the phone like every Thursday, and it helps so much. I'm not gonna lie, I had a white therapist like for the first 2 years, and it did not do anything. Like, it's just the difference. They don't understand. They give you advice that adheres to them and their people. So definitely just honestly getting a therapist. And I know that in our communities, that's like our parents are telling us all the time that stress, doesn't exist. Just pray, just go to the masjid. But I definitely feel like our generation needs to take matters into our own hands when it comes to our mental health.
Yeah.
And seeking professional help is not a bad thing. And I definitely am the type of person that says seek it before something actually happens, so you can have the willpower and different activities and stuff that your therapist teaches you on how to go about things and how to handle certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Therapy is something I used to look back at as like, oh, it's a weak person mindset. When I was, I think starting college, I was just like, no, therapy, what is that? And I'll deal with it myself. I got my people, but over time, you just see like what's wrong with it. Talking to someone and seeking professional help is not like, oh, you're sick or you got mental issues. It's just like, I think everyone should get therapy, even if you're healthy, even if you're completely normal and you're positive and you're, strong, whatever the circumstance may be. I think, therapy should be always included in everybody's life. So really, thank you for, bringing that point up. What about you, Mohamed? What do you think is another way to unplug from what's going on today?
Meditating.
Meditation?
Yeah, I mean, you just get to understand your own thought patterns, recognize why you feel certain types of way.
Yeah.
Like, like you get to know yourself. Like, a lot of people don't even know themselves. So, like, take time to get to know yourself. Like, instead of being on social media, like following what other people are doing, like, find out who you are. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like 2020 is the year for. There's a lot of bad things going on, but it's a year of consciousness, a year of reflection. And a year where you can grow. You used to maybe think things in the beginning of January, now you're like, oh no, it's completely. I mean, I can speak for myself, and I know I've changed my mind on a lot of things. just because you have so much time for yourself more than ever before. And to others, it's a blessing, and to some, it's a
curse.
It's a curse.
Yeah. I mean, social media is a drug. Like, it really is.
Yeah. So how would you guys say, like, okay, let's unplug from social media, let's meditate, let's, seek our therapist. At the same time, do you think it's possible to continue to protest, to continue to raise awareness for the injustices happening in our country and around the world?
I mean, yeah. I feel like if you're going out in person and doing things, then sure. I mean, you don't have to post things to.
So if you don't have to post things, what can you do?
You could actually go out and protest,
Yeah.
You go talk to people. You don't have to just put it on social media. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people on social media that are just doing it to show people that they're doing it, but not because they truly mean it.
Yeah. I mean, that brings us to the subject of, what I wanted to talk about was performative activism, where, if people don't understand, like people tuning in right now, when they understand, performative activism is just pretending like, you're doing it, just like you said, like you're doing it for somebody else, or you're just doing it to say, oh, I did it. Oh, I'm not a racist. I care about Black people and I care about what's going on in this country. So let me put my two coins in. And, the crazy thing is, I mean, this is my opinion, my perspective of being at, the protest and being in this country for, a lot, all my life, is that I think it's also within our own people, people of color, Black people, Sudanese community. It's not always it's not white people that it just applies performative activism. It's people that are Black. And you can, we can talk about this, and if you disagree, that's completely fine. But the reason why I believe this is because when I go out to these protests in Denver, I don't see anybody that I know. It's always people that I don't know. When I'm posting on my story, or I'm posting, it's random people hitting me up, people from high school, like that I don't even mess with no more. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But my closest friends, which I respect if you don't have to protest, but I do also don't understand why it's always the majority people at the protests are white people. You can say Denver's white, cool, but there's also we got a lot of Black people, man. This applies. If this was a Sudanese revolution, would white people only show up? Like, it's something that I always find conflicting. And you can tell me about your experience in the spring show. I mean, you can tell me about your experience too. But I really think performative activism applies to everyone, and we need to discuss that. We need to really call it out, because people post one time and then they care about the way their timeline looks. It's the likeliness of it. So yeah, let's talk about it. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay. So I've gone to the protest here in the Springs. I've gone to one in Denver, but I'm gonna be honest with you. The one in Denver, I basically begged my friend to come. All the ones in Colorado Springs, I've gone alone, and it's not like I didn't tell my friends. I mean, they knew I was going. I asked them to come over and make posters. Let's go. It's like, it's so disappointing, because I'm not gonna lie to you. Two of my white friends reached out and were like, "Hey, I'm trying to come with you." I'm not gonna lie, I said no, because I'm cool off white people right now. Even if they're allies, I'm cool. But I totally agree with you. It was very frustrating. At one point, I think I stopped talking to my friends for a good week and would just leave them on red, because it was very upsetting, especially since every time we get together, I think about this often. Like, what do white people talk about when they get together? Every time I'm with my Black girlfriends, we always talk about this shit right here. Sorry, this stuff right here. And I don't know, like it was very frustrating, because I'm like you said, performative activism. Like, are you all talk? I see you on Twitter. Like, we talk about this in person, and you're supposed to ride for your people. But when it comes down to it, are you actually, Which also brings me to another whole point of it, is when everything was happening and Black women were out in these streets, getting killed, putting their lives in danger, getting picked up by these vans, these unmarked vans. for Black men. And it really upset me when I saw the way that Black men were treating Black women. I don't know if you guys saw that video of like a group of Black men who threw this Black girl in the trash. I was just
And they were wearing
like that particular timeline. I was seeing a lot of videos like that, and just a lot of men talking about Black women. Like you always see them talking about white women and holding them on a higher pedestal, and that was kind of a slap in the face. So to me, it's like Black women are all we got. You know?
Yeah.
But the protest here, there was tear gas. I remember FaceTiming Rochelle, and I wasn't answering because the first protest I went to, I remember I read this thread on Twitter. It was like, turn your cellular data off, like leave your phone in your trunk. So I did all of that, and she like FaceTimed me. My eyes were red from the tear gas, and I had so many bruises. It was honestly a mess. It was bad because it was so peaceful. Like we were literally just walking, and then someone, I forgot her name, but she's like a household name here in Colorado Springs in terms of speaking on matters like this in public events and stuff like that. But she started talking into, is it called the megaphone or something?
Yeah, speakerphone, megaphone.
Yeah. And they just started, like, they just formed in a perfect line. Like, I haven't seen that since Beyonce's music video. I was just like, this can't be happening, you know? And I was alone, so I was so terrified. My phone wasn't with me. I parked like 4 blocks away so that I wouldn't get pulled over. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was probably one of the scariest moments in my life. I've never felt so alone. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to hear about that, honestly. Like, you know, I've gone to these protests, and most of the time it is Black women leading. It is, I'm not 100% time. I've never seen really Black men leading it. And there are times, you know, it's okay. But most of the time it is Black women because, you know, people that I go with are actually Sudanese women, you know. I've only gone with like Mohamed and a couple other guys, but that's it. And I don't know if it's, I mean, before, you know, we change to the, like, ask another question, Mohamed, go ahead and, you know, you can respond to what I've said. Formative activism, does it exist in our people?
It does. But I think it's deeper than that, though. Like, I feel like it ties back to mental health. Like, to be honest with you, social media, like, people will post things to hold up an image, you know, or to make themselves look good for other people.
Yeah.
In reality, look good for yourself, but people don't even know who they are. So that's a tie. I mean, it goes back to mental health. Like, the way your timeline looks bothers you to retweet something to change the world, and something's wrong with you.
Yeah. So it's deeper than just like the surface. It's inherently, you know, these people that are our friends or family members or people you don't know. They're just, maybe they're just.
It's like, you can't. I mean, to a certain, but you should never care what people think to begin with. I mean, it's easier said than done, but it's like, it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. I don't know.
So how do you address it?
I feel like people need to be more comfortable in their own skin.
How would you, for instance, like you have a friend, let's say, that's out there on social media, let's say like really prominent on social media, and he's Black or she's Black. How do you say, yo, bro, like, why are you, do you say something or do you leave it up to them? Like, should that be
say something about what?
As in challenging them, like, hey man, like, are you seeing what's going on? You know, I haven't really, like, you know, have you been in tune? What about you see somebody with the timeline that just basketball and be a young boy, you know, like it's Summer Walker's new album, you know, it's just so, you know, the whole Will Smith, whatever, that's what they care about. That's what they're commenting on. And this is someone you care about. What would you say? Or do you say nothing? Do you just leave it up to them and worry about them?
It's not my place to say something.
Okay.
I feel like everyone's on their own, like, journey, you know, like, I don't think people will understand things the same way I do or you guys do, you know, like, so I'm not going to force it on them. It's something they got to learn over time, you know, like, everyone grows at a different pace. So I don't know. Honestly, like using that time to focus on myself rather than try to change someone else, I've seen work for me, because I mean I have tried to change people, but it's like I end up wasting my time.
But the time is now, though, right? Like, you know, if we let go of the movement, I mean, social media is going normal, as in like people are just making, we saw it a month ago. It was Black Lives, Black Lives, Black Lives. You know, that was all going on. It was actually disrespectful to be posting about anything other than that. People would be like, "Yo, what are you doing?" But no one cares about your trip in the Bahamas. We care about what's going on in the streets. But now it's just normal. I mean, we have people like, and it's okay to be normal. I think people should. This is a movement that's gonna go on for the rest of our lives. I'll be 45 and I'll probably still be fighting for injustice. It's not gonna stop today. It's not gonna stop tomorrow or next month or next year. But wouldn't you say like the time is now? Like, yo, man, you can't, like, let's say, God forbid, but let's say Elijah McClain or Breonna Taylor was one of your guys' names. Well, it was Shog Bakit and it was Muhammad or Hussein who we were fighting for. And no one would show up. Let's say, just like no one showed up for Elijah McClain the first march that happened. What do we do then? Like we don't challenge them. We just wait and just let them change within themselves.
Well, I feel like that's different though. Like it's like trying to change someone on social media versus to bring people out to join with like physical movement. Like you want to say something, Shug?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm pressing you. I'm calling you out. I'm gonna embarrass you on every social media platform, just because this isn't something that's like, do you like tomatoes or not, or do you pour milk before your cereal? I feel like this is something that if your timeline doesn't look like mine, if you're not speaking on it as much as I am, or even more, then you're against it. That's how I look at it. And if you're against it, you're the enemy. If you're the enemy, I'm coming at you with all types of smoke. Even if you are my closest friend, and if you are my closest friend, it's, first of all, I wouldn't even have a friend like that in the first place. But I definitely would press you, and I have. I've pressed so many people. There's this white girl who we went to high school with, and she just acts all cool and all Black Lives Matter, but her husband's in the military, and when everything went down, she didn't post anything. So I pressed her. She just gave birth to a newborn baby. Do they care? No, absolutely not. Their newborn babies literally protesting their Black lives on the street when everything happened with George Floyd. So her answer was so bland. It was like, I just feel like I don't have to post anything. If I'm with it, like I don't have to make it obvious. Like, yeah, you do. You do have to make it obvious. Like it's to that point where if you're not waving a white flag, you're the enemy. That's how I look at it.
What about, I mean, if it's something like not on their timeline, what about if they're, throwing money, donating? What about if they're intentionally trying to, learn themselves, and you just don't know that? On the surface, it might seem like they don't care. Because I've come across,
No, you got to speak on it. Because if this whole situation is not upsetting you to the point that you can go on social media and tweet and retweet like pictures of beautiful women, or just like whatever's going on with entanglement and Jada Pinkett Smith, but Black life is not important enough for you to, have the same energy, then that's the problem right there. Like it's not. I feel like people are just thinking about it too deep. It's really not. People take their phones out and Snapchat when they were in a car accident, but you're telling me you can't tweet Black Lives Matter and expect me to think that Black Lives Matter to you?
So
It's like,
if you have a platform, you should use it.
absolutely. And you should protest. Like there are people out there that lie to their parents and sneak out and go to parties or hang out with their friends and do what they got to do. Have the same energy when it comes to protesting for your life and the people that you love's lives. That's how I look at it. I mean, I lied to my parents. I had to twice. I'd do it again because I don't know. I feel like people are thinking too much into it. If you really want something, if you really want to fight for something, you do it. If you really want to speak on something, you do it. If something bothers you, you'd speak on it. I just feel like it's pretty simple.
Let's see. Before we continue, Penelope has joined the conversation. Can you hear us?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, perfect. So we just if you can just introduce yourselves to the group. Fun fact about yourself and why you decided to join the conversation. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Penelope. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, and I guess when I was little, I didn't really see a lot of stuff when it came to like race and racism and stuff until I came to the United States. And I guess I just wanted to hear what other people. I've never really gone to a school where there were a lot of African American students.
Oh,
Most of the students I've been is it's mostly white people actually because of the cities that I've lived in since being in the U.S.
mhm.
So I just always wanted to know what other African American students thought of the issues that go around in this country.
Okay. I didn't even know that. That's really cool. And just to catch you up on what we talked about, we discussed mental health and why mental health is so needed right now. We have the days are becoming more depressed. Cases are surging around the world, as in coronavirus. Schools are, for a lot of college students, are a question mark, and people are getting lynched. Black women are getting killed. Black men are being, just disappearing. Um, so how do a lot of Mohammed and Shob would say was they unplug on social media, take some time for themselves. Therapy is needed. How do you maintain your health? How do you balance out, what's going on right now on around the world, and how do you care for yourself?
Me, I guess I talk to my because some of them like live in places like Texas and Florida, and they see a lot of stuff down there.
Mm.
So I usually just talk to them to see what's going on. I have a lot of cousins that are in this country, and I interact with them, and that usually just talking about it so that I'm more aware of what's going on, just discussing it, seeing how others feel about the situation, and always having somebody explain to me exactly what they think about what's going on. So yeah, I prefer discussing it. I try not to always think about it because I'm also in school and stuff, so it like stresses me out. So I normally just try to get it out when I can.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Yeah. Well, before you joined, we were just talking about performative activism, which is where it's pretty much like you're just pretending, or you might retweet one thread and two, maybe a poster out there, and then go quiet on what's going on. It's just being fake to the movement and to a lot of people. And it's, I think, more than ever, it's really being shown, and people are really becoming annoyed. There's ways to ignore it, within our community, and performative activism. I think we've all agreed, Mohammed and along with Shog, that it exists within the Black community, within the African community. Um, and we're all children of immigrants. So I just wanted to ask you guys all a question on what's your parents' idea on going on? What's like, have they said something? Have they, if they know you're going protesting, or if they know you're out just going out, like be careful. Has there been anything said, or has it been, quiet and just like everything's normal? Anyone can go.
Um, so I went home for the weekend, like when the protests first started happening, and my dad has always hated the cops. Not a fan of this country. So they had CNN on, and even my mom, and they were like, burn it all down. And my dad's like, F the cops. So they're all for it. But in terms of me or my sister going to the protests, nah. Like I said, like we have to say something else and then go. But I feel like in the back of their minds, they know. Like my parents know me. My mom always said that I was gonna die. Someone like in a agency or the police are gonna kill me one day if I don't chill out.
Okay.
Ever since I was little. So, and she kind of like brought it up, like, where were you? Because I came home at like 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was at the protest. I just told her, and I was like, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They know.
Mm.
So.
What about you, Penelope?
My parents are pretty chill about like with what's going on. They try to make it not be a super big deal as so not to stress me out, but they do talk about the issues and explain what's going on and try to help me understand what like why these things are happening, what led to them and stuff like that. So they're very supportive with whatever I decide to do. I personally can't. I live with like an elderly person, and I live with somebody who's very high risk for coronavirus.
Okay.
So I couldn't go to protest like I wanted to. I have done protesting before, but I couldn't this time, which was like really disappointing. But yeah, but they were really supportive and understanding of what's going on.
Mm. And Mohammed?
And my parents aren't against the movement; they're for the movement, but they're more overprotective. You know, like
Yeah.
can't just go tell them to protest.
Yeah, I mean, I completely, for me, it was, I mean, my parents know, like, I'm a journalist, like, that's my major. And so I went out with the camera and whatnot and a tripod. And my dad was like, at first saying, protest, what are you going to do? Like, what was one person going to do, to protest? And I got really upset, and we had a lot of debates and arguments, and I showed him like, yo, look at your own country. You guys thought protests don't do nothing, and we've changed. And that, shuts them up. And it is dangerous. Like, I've come home with tear gas. I've come home like visibly upset, especially at these last recent Aurora protests. And it's dangerous, 100%. And I don't think we should force everyone to go out there and protest. There's ways to protest without actually protesting, because you could lose your life, you could lose an eye, it's really, I think if you're not well aware of the situation, you shouldn't go out there, and you shouldn't have to. But it's really interesting to see how African immigrants respond to these things. They hate the cops. Like, show your parents, like, okay, you hate the cops, burn it all down. My dad and my mom don't understand the whole burning it down yet. I think they're like, oh, what the street's gonna be dirty, the city's gonna be ugly, And I'm just like, it's beyond that. It goes beyond that, because you're paying money to these police that are killing your own, your own people, and it could one day just be us. And I really hope that doesn't ever happen, but it could. That's how I really think about everything. Is what about it's you or it's her, or if it's your brother or your sister or your mother or your father, because we've seen how these things go down. Go ahead, Shel.
Sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to piggyback off what you just said. I think that's something that a lot of our parents struggle with, is them. It's not clicking in their heads that could be us next, because they have this whole mentality that we're not Black, So I think that's why a lot of our parents aren't fighting it and aren't, having the same talks with us that, Black parents are having with their children, about cops, about the system, about things of that nature. Is, I think, no one had that discussion with our parents as well. And just the whole fact that what I just brought up, and it took a long while and so many conversations and arguments for that to click for my parents.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy they're finally at that, I'm like, we're Black. They're like, no, you're not. And then they'd yell at me, and I'm like, if the cops pull me over, am I Black? Am I not Black? And that's how they understood it. So I just think that's also a conversation we need to have, with their parents.
You bring up a good point. I don't know any African parents that like taper fades. They like chains. They like short shorts. Rap. Never. Like, they hate all of that. And I've heard it, and I'll be honest. My parents have once said, like, what do you, don't be like these Black kids, man. This racist thinking, bro. Because they see this thing just like white people see on the movies and the social media. They came into this country, and they're like, oh my God, 50 Cent. What are you listening to right now? What is this? Lil Wayne, all this music, gang music. It's gonna make you go into that place. And it's time to educate our own parents. So you really bring up a good point. Mohammed, you wanted to say something? I think.
No.
Oh, that's what I thought you were about to. Okay. Yeah, you bring up a good point. So I don't know how much time we have. This thing is like 50 minutes. So I just want to talk about voting. and why it's so important to vote. Especially we don't have the best election. I mean, we have an old man that's saying things that I'm talking about both of them. I'm talking about Trump and Biden, and we're living in such a. I think this is worse than 2016. It's terrible. You have a person saying, "Yo, shoot him in the leg instead of the body," and then you have one that's obviously completely corrupt and evil, and like it's less of two evils. So how are you guys?
Yeah, I guess.
Are you raising awareness to get everybody in that family to vote, and ignoring these celebrities that are coming out and trying to vote and trying to say like, yeah, vote for me, 2020 vision, Kanye, for example. I'm looking at you, Mohamed. So I mean, how are you guys advocating for voting? And how do you advocate for the voting for the state elections? If you voted, and if you didn't, I won't say.
For me, I guess like I just figured when it comes to voting between the two, I guess like you said, you have to pick like the lesser of two evils, because it's like two old white men running for president. There's not much change there, except I believe with Trump, he would most likely make things way worse for Black people than they already are now. I think he could take that to like a whole new level. Like I have seen like he's done with the immigrants and all that stuff. He's more ruthless and willing to like destroy lives just to benefit himself.
Yeah.
So I think he's a little bit worse. But for my family, yeah, everybody is pretty. They're very big on voting for stuff like that. So we did vote on all the elections, and for the most part, the people that I need to convince, like I said, most of my friends tend to be more. Most of my friends are white because of where I live and what I'm surrounded by. So they're the hardest because they're always like making these excuses about who they want to vote for. They're always saying like, I'm not gonna vote because I believe my vote doesn't count or it doesn't change anything. And I'm just like, wow, like you can just see like the privilege, and I feel like those are the types of people that need to hear the truth. So I'm always trying to tell them the truth. I'm like think about how this affects me. Like I'm your friend. Like, do you actually care about how this affects other people? Do you care about people of color? That kind of thing. So that's big on me, to change people our age's minds that don't necessarily look like us, because they have like this idea that nothing's going to change, but they don't realize that we need to force the change. They're most likely thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about their friends that are minorities and stuff. They need to like see things through our eyes for just a minute, just to see how we live. That's what I think.
Yeah. And we have less than 5 minutes, so like if Mohammed show, you guys just say your quick points, please.
I think local elections are the most important.
Yeah.
Most people only vote for the presidency, and that's not even most people. Barely anybody even votes. But,
Okay, that's it. Okay. Yeah, Shug?
Yeah. Old school ballot. My parents, they kind of just throw it on the table and they're like, fill it out for me. I'm not going to say I do that just in case the feds are watching.
Yeah.
It's harder for a woman just because you're voting between two rapists / sexual abusers.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, you got to choose the lesser of two evils. And I think most white people don't care as much because this presidency didn't affect them. The next one's not going to affect them. And that's something that we also got to consider, is the fact that presidency, like before women were allowed to vote, presidency did not affect white people.
Yeah.
Until they took the slaves away. That wasn't even, honestly, the president, if we're going to be honest. That's honestly all I got to say on the matter, is get out there and vote. You got to vote. You can't, as much as you protest, as much as you're on Twitter, on other social media platforms, talking the talk, it's performative. What'd you say? Protesting?
Activism.
Yes, if you're not voting. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, all of you guys, I just want to thank you for participating in today's discussion and, supporting the vision. More importantly, thank you for all that. we're very thankful for that. And just stay safe, stay alert, stay healthy. More importantly, and like Shog said, make sure you vote, man. Don't vote for Kanye. Take care. And this episode hopefully will be out in a couple weeks, if not next week. So stay tuned.